Service operations is continual. So whatever state you are in from an IT perspective in your organisation, there is something that needs operating, managing, looking after, and it needs resourcing around that. When you then start to think about, or you start embarking on cloud operating models, they are considerably different to traditional ways of working, be it on-prem, hybrid, data centers, etc. Things like cost optimization and security really come into play at that point. So thinking about your run operating state as part of your deployment into the cloud or your creation of environment in the cloud is absolutely critical to do the two things at once. We often see customers where it's all about the one-time activity, need to get into the cloud for whatever reason, a data center exit, taking a particular workload into the cloud. What we're looking for is making sure that we're thinking about what the operating model is for that environment. And we want to be doing that as part of the build of the environment. You start thinking about the monitoring capabilities, the scheduled management that needs to happen for that environment. If you think about that in advance, get us involved from an operate perspective and conversation in advance, you're then really setting yourself up properly for the operating model when the environment's live. Whenever you embark on an engagement to put something into the cloud, come from it from a perspective of how am I going to operate that in the cloud. So think about in advance when you're building the environment, when you're going through those design stages of the environment, think about what's required to manage that environment in the cloud. So there are clever tricks in terms of tagging in Microsoft environments to align workloads to specific environments. By tagging those environments, you can then actually report on later down the line how they're performing, how much they're costing you as an organization. So by thinking about that strategic piece up front, you're then in a much better position to run it moving forward. To think about your disaster recovery strategy for your cloud environment, think about that in advance, because that's part and parcel of annual reviews for testing to go, yep, our DR can be met because we've just performed the test. And that test is against the strategy to begin with. A lot of organizations are so fixated on get me to the cloud that they don't think about the run. And the ideal time to do that is up front. And I've seen organizations where they've had to then roll back or environment builds because it actually doesn't meet the requirements of the business in the operate stage, or they've had to invest more money and more consultation to get it to where it needs to be from that perspective. So if it was me, I'd be going, right, I want to get my workloads into Azure. I want to get my 365 capability really well nailed down and defined. I want the right policies, the right protocols. I want my data platform to be there and an enabler for my business, but I'm coming at it from an operating perspective.